Just yesterday, Bungie announced that the Year 2 Annual Pass is free for players who own or plan on buying the Forsaken DLC. Both Forsaken and the Year 2 Pass are now lumped together, allowing more players to experience the last 3 seasons of Destiny 2, which were Season of the Forge, Season of the Drifter, and Season of Opulence. Today, I'm going to attempt to recap the highlights of the Year 2 Annual Pass and what was added with each release, and then pick out the things that I think you should focus on doing immediately versus the stuff you can worry about later. I also want to make this video kind of an all-in-one guide for the last 3 seasons of content that has the most important information right here for you. If you're jumping in trying to catch up before Shadowkeep, or you're just beginning your journey at the start of Year 3, guides for everything in the Annual Pass that I'll be covering, and even stuff I won't be, can be found in the description below. I'm going to be putting up cards on the screen of the highlights of each season and giving a brief summary of everything involved and how it works. We'll start with Season 5, Season of the Forge. The main draw of this season was the 4 Black Armory Forges, which are 3-round, 3-player activities in which you kill shiny blue enemies, pick up the batteries they drop, and toss them into the forge. Then you face off against a final boss. The first one, the Volunder Forge in the EDZ, is available pretty much immediately after starting the Black Armory storyline. The next 2, which are the Gofanin and Izanagi Forges, located on Nessus, can be unlocked through lengthy quest lines, and the final one, the Bruguzia Forge in the EDZ, is accessible immediately with no questline attached. You'll start this DLC storyline by speaking to the vendor 801 for the first time in the Tower Annex. The gameplay loop of this season is to complete weekly bounties from Ada 1 and acquire things called ballistic logs. You can trade these into Ada to buy weapon frames, which are basically bounties with multiple steps. Once those steps are finished, to complete the weapon frame, you'll need to craft it in its corresponding forge, or in the Bruguzia Forge where any weapon can be crafted. One thing to note is that you need to unlock the forge a weapon is tied to be able to purchase its frame. For example, the pulse rifle frame is tied to the Izanagi Forge, so you'll need to fully unlock that forge before you're able to start crafting the pulse rifle. Ada 1 also sells research frames, which are weapons from other parts of the game like the Dreaming City or Gambit weapons that once crafted can have multiple perks on them that you can switch between, like Kill Clip and Rampage in the same column. These can be purchased with modulus reports earned by completing runs of any forge. There's also several exotics that can be earned from this season, namely Jotun, Le Monarch, and Izanagi's Burden. Both Jotun and Le Monarch have a chance to drop in the Bruguzia Forge when forging powerful weapon frames, so I would highly recommend crafting your weapons in Bruguzia if you plan on farming them. Izanagi's Burden, on the other hand, is a much longer process, which requires unlocking all of the forges and completing the mysterious box quest. You can find this item in a cave within the Volunder Forge, but you're going to want to use the guide in the description to complete the rest of it. I would highly recommend going for the Izanagi's Burden exotic because unlike Jotun or Le Monarch, it's a reward from a quest and not an RNG drop. Not to mention, it is an extremely strong weapon and will be one of the strongest special weapons in the game in Season 8. The only real annoying part of this quest is that you need a rare bounty, which is an RNG drop from doing Ada 1's daily and weekly bounties. So that specific step can take a little bit, but if you're doing daily and weekly bounties, make sure not to turn in that rare bounty until you get to the step. The exotic hand cannon The Last Word also appears in this season. To start the quest for that, you can simply visit the Drifter in the Tower's Annex and pick up the quest item called the Draw. Black Armory and Season of the Forge also introduced the Scourge of the Past, a Fallen-themed raid that takes place in the last city. It's on the shorter side as far as raids go, but it's one of the most enjoyable ones in the game, with a sparrow racing section, tanks, and a giant mech boss piloted by a tiny little servitor. From this raid, the notable drops are the exotic grenade launcher Anarchy, which has a chance to drop from the final chest, the threat level shotgun, which can roll with trench barrel and grave robber, and the no feelings scout rifle, which as of recording this, is the only scout rifle in the game that can roll with the perk box breathing. There is also an insanely difficult puzzle called Niobe Labs that grants an exotic ghost shell and an emblem, but it's an extremely time-consuming thing for later down the line once you've acquired all of the Black Armory weapons. Of course, there's plenty more secrets that players found throughout the season, and you can find them in the description, but the stuff I would recommend doing immediately are the following. Completing the mysterious box quest and unlocking all of the forges on one character, since unfortunately Bungie did not start making things like this account-wide until the most recent season. If you do everything on one character for Black Armory, you can minimize the amount of grind you have to do, and this way you can farm for some god rolls on superb weapons like the Hammerhead machine gun, the Blast Furnace pulse rifle, and the Striker's Surehand sword. All of the weapons in Black Armory are awesome, but those are my favorites. If you enjoy using exotic hand cannons, I'd say go for the Last Word. It's not that long of a quest, and it's ridiculously good on PC. Also, make sure to try and do the Scourge of the Past raid at least once, it's very fun, and you may even get some useful Fallen mods. Moving on, Season 6 Season of the Drifter is centered around Gambit Prime and the Reckoning. Gambit Prime is an evolution of the classic Gambit mode, but the rules have changed. There's new mechanics, armor sets that change the way Gambit Prime plays, and most importantly, Gambit Prime only lasts for one round. By completing bounties from the Drifter, matches of Gambit Prime, and certain objectives within those matches, you'll earn something called synths. These synths can be crafted into motes by using a mote synthesizer, which you will earn from the Drifter. You'll need to upgrade the synthesizer over 3 weeks to get access to the best armor and the highest difficulty of the Reckoning activity. You'll also want to do all the Season of the Drifter content on one character for now, since this pursuit item is also not account-wide. The gameplay loop of this season is earning synths from Gambit Prime and bounties, turning them into motes, and then jumping into the Reckoning where you can deposit your motes into a bank, and in return you are rewarded with Gambit Prime armor sets. The Reckoning is a 4-player match-made activity located on the hunk of ice attached to the Drifter ship, where you'll be tasked with clearing groups of enemies and mini-bosses, capturing plates, and defeating a final boss through multiple sections of this frozen arena while under an intense time limit. The Reckoning activity has 2 weeks of bosses. The first is a pair of knights called the Swords, and the second is an Echo of Oryx. Depending on the boss week, you'll have a chance to earn different weapons from both Tier 2 and Tier 3 difficulties of the activity. While you are required to deposit motes to get the armor, you don't need to deposit any motes to earn the weapons. They simply have a chance to drop when killing the final boss. These weapons can also drop from Gambit Prime. If you've upgraded your mote synthesizer to Tier 3, aka the legendary version, you can earn 4 out of 5 pieces of the Tier 3 armor, aka the Notorious set, from entering in powerful motes into the Reckoning bank. To get the final piece, which is the helmet for each set, you'll have to complete 3 of the helmet upgrade bounties offered by the Drifter, 1 per week. If you manage to earn an entire set of Notorious armor, this is going to unlock the special set's game-changing perks provided by that armor, which are only active in Gambit Prime. Depending on the set you've chosen, whether it be the Invader, Collector, Reaper, or Sentry set, these perks will vary, giving you different bonuses to help you stay competitive in Gambit Prime. Another big draw this season was the Invitations of the Nine. If you're really into lore, you can visit Xur each week to pick up one of these invitations, of which there are 9. These invitations ask you to complete a few objectives in order to get a cutscene or in-game bit of story. You've also got the quest for the exotic hand cannon Thorn. To begin this quest line, you'll need to head to the salt mines and take a teleporter to a ridge in the EDZ. You'll find a campfire nearby, and digging in the ashes of the fire reveals the item you'll need to start the quest. Again, a full guide is in the description. The final highlight of the season is the 0-hour secret mission. Similar to the Whisper of the Worm mission from Season 3, it is a 3-player activity where you must race against the clock fighting a bunch of enemies, this time through a jaw-dropping labyrinth that is the walls of the last city and the vault within it, and stop a big bad boss at the very end. It's one of the best pieces of content Destiny has to offer, and to gain access to it, you'll need to open a locked door south of the rig on Titan. It can be accessed through the patrol at any time, and inside this room, you'll find a device which is going to begin the 0-hour quest. Like the Whisper mission, beating 0 Hour will reward you with an exotic, this time it's Outbreak Perfected. Beating the mission also unlocks the heroic version, which you can beat to discover the weapon's catalyst, and run it again once per week to make progress on completing it. For Season of the Drifter, I'd recommend you farm either Gambit Prime or Reckoning for weapons such as Last Man Standing, which can roll with the awesome perk 1-2 Punch, the Night Watch Scout Rifle, the Spare Rations Hand Cannon, which is a beast of a gun, and the Soul Survivor Sniper Rifle, which can roll with the perk Firing Line. Personally, I wouldn't waste your time with the armor unless you really like Gambit Prime. You can worry about the armor later. The Thorn quest is a bit long and I don't think it's necessary at all, but if you like exotic hand cannons a lot and you want to add it to your collection, then go for it. It's a cool gun. Otherwise, most definitely complete the 0-hour mission at least once to get the Outbreak Perfected. It is a fantastic addition to your arsenal. On to the final release of Year 2, that's Season 7, Season of Opulence, which introduced one of the most enjoyable grinds and one of the most rewarding activities, and that's the Menagerie, a 6-player match-made activity that takes place aboard the lowest deck of the Leviathan, where you'll be thrown into various different encounters fighting against Vex and Hive enemies. This is easily one of my favorite match-made activities introduced in the series. It takes a bunch of mechanics found across different Destiny experiences and throws you and 5 others into a room with a bunch of enemies and says, figure out how to perfect this, good luck. The more encounters you perfect, the faster you get to the boss. But unlike Reckoning, failing doesn't actually end your run. Instead, it counts the progress you made and then brings you to the next encounter. Once you've filled up the entire progress bar, you'll be directed to fight a final boss, of which there are 3. The order of the encounters are random every time, but each week the final boss rotates to keep things fresh. The gameplay loop of this season is to acquire your Chalice of Opulence, which is thankfully account-wide, and play activities like Strikes, Gambit, and Crucible to earn runes, and then you can slot those runes into your Chalice to decide what weapons and armor that you want. But before you have access to the entire loot table, you'll need to upgrade your Chalice by unlocking perks with a currency called Imperials. This currency can be obtained by opening the weekly chest on the Nessus Barge, by completing Season of Opulence bounties, and most importantly by completing triumphs that reward these Imperials, which can be found under the Menagerie section of the Destinations tab. Unlocking all of the rune compatibility perks and the first 2 rune slots on the Chalice allows you to access all of the loot from the Menagerie chest. To read this loot table chart, you simply find the weapon or armor piece you want, and then enter the rune above it in the top Chalice slot, and then enter any of the 3 runes to the left of it in the left Chalice slot. You can even go as far as to customize the Masterwork stat on the weapon or armor piece depending on the 3rd rune that you enter in the rightmost Chalice slot. You can actually see what stat it's going to give you by hovering over the rune in-game. There is also a heroic version of the Menagerie which starts at 740 and the enemies scale up to 770 power, and there are brutal modifiers active to increase the difficulty. There is also no matchmaking in this heroic version, so you'll need to bring in a pre-made fireteam. Besides being attached to triumphs required for the Shadow title, there are 2 other reasons to run the heroic version. The first is for the Opulence swords, which are new versions of the old Year 1 class-specific swords. The other reason is if you have a fully upgraded Chalice and you have unlocked all the perks and slots on it, your first clear on the Heroic Menagerie will guarantee you the catalyst for the Izanagi's Burden Sniper. The catalyst gives you a damage bonus of 20% when you fire a honed edge shot with the gun, so it's a pretty serious bonus. On top of this, Season of Opulence also introduced 3 exotic weapon quests. The first is for the rocket launcher Truth, and the quest for it can be started by acquiring the Awoken script that drops from completing a run of the Menagerie and opening the final chest. The second is for an exotic hand cannon called Lumina, which can be started by opening a crate in the same campsite as where you found Thorn. And the final quest is for the weapon Bad Juju, which is located within a destination called the Tribute Hall. To gain access to the Tribute Hall, open the chest next to the vendor Warner 99 aboard the Nessus Barge. Once you've completed a bounty from the Callus statue in the Tribute Hall, you'll then need to place 18 total tributes to start the Bad Juju mission called the Other Side, which takes you aboard an Ascendant version of the Leviathan. Tributes are earned from triumphs and through buying them from the statue. Then we have the Crown of Sorrow raid, which takes players into the depths of a hive-infested Leviathan to meet a Cabal Bather who has been corrupted by a crown imbued with hive magic. It's another short raid that mainly relies on a single mechanic. Personally, I enjoy it, but it's one of the more divisive raids that's come out of the series so far. The raid exotic here is Taraba or Taraba, a somewhat decent exotic SMG, but sadly it's overshadowed by Recluse and its exotic twin, Huckleberry. The weapons within the raid are decent, but nothing you really need. When it comes to Season of Opulence, you should absolutely take advantage of the Menagerie and all of the weapons and armor available from it. All of the Season of Opulence weapons are fantastic, and using the Chalice, you can grind for exactly what you want, while still having the surprise of the random rolls. All of the weapons found in the Menagerie are awesome. You've got things like the Austringer hand cannon that can roll with the Eye of the Storm and rangefinder perks, things like the beloved sniper rifle which can roll with a new perk called No Distractions, And you've even got access to old weapons such as Erentil or Dustrock Blues. Not to mention, once you've upgraded certain perks on your chalice, you can get extra powerful rewards each week and have a chance for mods to drop such as Hive mods from the Crown of Sorrow raid or other Leviathan specific mods. I'd say if you can at least level up to 740 or 750, try giving the Heroic Menagerie a shot for a single run, but only after you've fully upgraded the chalice, which honestly doesn't take too long, provided you are efficient and unlock the perk Power and Efficiency 2 as soon as possible. One run of Heroic Menagerie is worth it to get the Izanagi's Burden Catalyst. I would recommend also running through Crown of Sorrow at least once just to experience it, but missing out on Heroic Menagerie or Crown isn't the end of the world. Crown's raid exotic isn't as worthwhile as Scourge's is, so if you have limited time, run Scourge of the Past over this raid. As for exotics, Bad Juju is very easy to get, and I would highly recommend running this mission tied to it, as it's extremely fun and has an amazing soundtrack. If you want to try it out, Lumina is the first support weapon in the Destiny series with the ability to heal and buff allies that you shoot with it, but it's by no means meta, at least right now, and definitely more of a niche option. Thankfully, it's not a time-consuming quest though. As for Truth, it's decent in PvP and a killer for invading in Gambit or Gambit Prime, but not something I would consider a must-have. As for Pinnacle weapons, up until this point, all the Pinnacle weapons introduced in each of the seasons have been free to everyone, so I'm not going to bother listing them in this video since I want to only cover Annual Pass exclusive stuff. Maybe I'll do another video for Pinnacle weapons later down the line if you think that would be useful. Otherwise, that should catch you up to speed on the Year 2 Annual Pass content. I've got a few more things I want to cover before Shadowkeep releases, so stay tuned for those. If you have anything you'd like to add in the comments that you think would be helpful, please go ahead and leave them below. And with that, thank you very much for watching.